The morning sun, soft and golden, filtered through the bedroom curtains, painting stripes across the plush carpet. Olivia stretched, a contented smile playing on her lips. Today was their 10th anniversary. 10 years of building a life, a home, a future with Ethan. She rolled over, her eyes landing on the framed photo on the nightstand, a candid shot of them laughing on their first trip together, faces young and full of hope. Hope that until now, she believed had been richly fulfilled. She slipped out of bed, the cool floor a pleasant shock to her feet. The day was planned down to the last detail. A quiet breakfast at their favorite cafe, a walk in the park where Ethan had proposed, a couple's massage, and finally, a reservation at the Starlight Room, the fancy rooftop restaurant they had always dreamed of going to. Every year they exchanged thoughtful gifts. This year, she had commissioned a custom-made watch for Ethan, engraved with their anniversary date and a private message. "Time flies when I'm with you." It had cost her nearly $5,000, a significant sum saved up from her freelance graphic design work, but it was worth every penny for the man she loved. She moved through their shared townhouse, a place filled with memories. The small, slightly chipped ceramic mug she always used, the faded throw blanket they snuggled under on movie nights, the thriving monstera plant Ethan had bought her on a whim. Each item, a silent witness to their life together. Ethan was already up, the smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen. He greeted her with a warm smile, a kiss on her forehead, and a cheerful, "Happy anniversary, Liv." He looked handsome, dressed in a casual polo shirt, his dark hair slightly ruffled. He poured her a cup of coffee just the way she liked it, with a splash of cream and no sugar. "Happy anniversary, my love," she replied, wrapping her arms around his waist. "Ready for our perfect day?" "Wouldn't miss it for the world," he said, his smile widening. They sat at the breakfast nook, sunlight warming their faces. Ethan talked about his plans for the day, his upcoming work trip to San Francisco, a detail she knew well, as he'd been preparing for it for weeks. He was a project manager at a successful tech firm, and these trips were a regular part of his job, often involving long hours and late nights. She never questioned it. Why would she? Throughout the morning, as they went through their planned activities, Ethan was the picture of the perfect partner. He held her hand during their walk, reminiscing about their early days. He laughed at her jokes, even the silly ones. He was attentive during the massage, making sure she was comfortable. He posted a sweet photo of them on his social media with a heartfelt caption about their 10 years. But beneath the surface, if she had been looking closely enough, there were tiny cracks. At the cafe, his phone buzzed incessantly. He kept it face down, but she saw his eyes flick towards it every time. He excused himself to take a call, stepping outside. When he returned, he seemed slightly flustered, his usual easygoing demeanor replaced by a subtle tension around his jawline. Later, during their walk, he pointed out a new boutique that had opened. "Oh, Chloe mentioned this place," he said, then quickly added, "You know, from work. She said they have great dresses." He recovered smoothly, changing the subject, but the name Chloe felt oddly placed, like a dropped stitch in a perfect pattern. She barely registered it at the time, dismissing it as office chatter. At the massage spa while they were waiting, he took another call. This time, he didn't step away. He spoke in hushed tones, ending the call with a slightly too loud, "Okay, talk soon." He hung up and plastered a smile on his face, turning to her. "Just work stuff," he explained, shrugging it off. His eyes didn't quite meet hers, and a nervous laugh escaped his lips, a sound she'd never heard from him before. It was almost imperceptible, a tiny tremor in the otherwise smooth facade. She brushed it off, attributing it to work stress. He had a big presentation coming up before his trip. As the day progressed, the subtle unease lingered, a faint, off-key note in their otherwise harmonious anniversary symphony. He was overly affectionate at times, holding her a little too tightly, kissing her a little too passionately, as if trying to compensate for something. It felt forced, theatrical. But Olivia, caught up in the romance of the day and her love for him, chose not to see it. She wanted to believe in the perfect day, in the perfect 10 years. The revelation. A world shattered, the evening arrived, bringing with it the promise of the grand finale at the Starlight Room. Olivia had spent hours getting ready, choosing her favorite dress, doing her hair and makeup meticulously. She felt beautiful, radiant, ready to celebrate their love. Ethan was dressed in a sharp suit, looking every bit the successful, devoted husband. They took a taxi downtown, the city lights twinkling like scattered diamonds below them as they ascended to the rooftop restaurant. The ambiance was breathtaking. Soft music, panoramic views, and couples celebrating their own milestones. They ordered champagne, and Ethan raised his glass. "To 10 years, Liv," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "To us, and to many more." Olivia's heart swelled. "To us," she echoed, clinking her glass against his. Dinner was delicious, the conversation flowing easily. They talked about their dreams, their future plans, maybe buying a small cottage upstate, traveling more, maybe even starting a family in a few years. The subtle unease from earlier in the day seemed to have dissipated, replaced by the familiar comfort and connection they shared. As the evening wound down, Ethan excused himself to use the restroom. His phone lay on the table next to his water glass. It buzzed. Olivia glanced at it, expecting to see a work email or a news alert. Instead, a message notification popped up on the screen. From Chloe. Message, "Can't wait for SF Babe XL. See you tomorrow night." Olivia stared at the screen, her breath catching in her throat. SF. San Francisco. His upcoming work trip. Babe. The 2 kisses. Her mind raced. Chloe from work? The woman he'd mentioned at the park? San Francisco? Seeing him tomorrow night? His trip wasn't supposed to start until the day after tomorrow. And why Babe? A cold dread began to spread through her, a chilling contrast to the warmth of the champagne she'd just drunk. It must be a mistake, she thought desperately. A wrong number. An inside joke she didn't understand. She picked up the phone, her hands trembling slightly. It was unlocked. A flood of messages from Chloe filled the screen. Her eyes scanned the conversation, her heart pounding harder with each line. "Missing you already. Wish you weren't stuck at your anniversary dinner. Just thinking about our weekend last month? So good. Got the same perfume you like for the trip. Get ready. Hope Liv doesn't suspect anything. Be careful tonight." Olivia's world tilted on its axis. The elegant restaurant, the romantic music, the twinkling city lights. They all blurred into an indistinguishable mess. The air grew thin, and she felt a wave of nausea wash over her. This wasn't a wrong number. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was concrete proof. A digital dagger plunged straight into her heart. Before we move forward, please take a moment to give this video a like and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our next dramatic tale. Your engagement helps us bring more compelling stories like this one to life. She scrolled further, back, seeing conversations spanning weeks, months. Planning secret meetings, discussing hotel bookings, making arrangements for his work trips that were clearly anything but. Pet names, intimate details, future plans made with another woman. 10 years. A decade of her life, built on a foundation of lies. The initial shock was paralyzing. Disbelief warred with the undeniable evidence on the screen. No, this couldn't be real. Ethan? Her Ethan? The man who promised forever? The man she trusted implicitly? He couldn't be living a double life. It was a nightmare. She would wake up any minute. But the words on the screen remained, sharp and undeniable. Hope Liv doesn't suspect anything. The realization of the betrayal hit her then, not as a gentle dawning, but as a brutal, shattering blow. It wasn't just a fling. This was an ongoing, deliberate deception. He had planned this, hidden this, while looking her in the eye and professing his love. He had spent their 10th anniversary, a day meant to celebrate their commitment, knowing he was leaving for another woman the next day. The weight of the truth was suffocating. It felt as though the entire 10 years they had built together, the memories, the trust, the love, were being crushed into dust right before her eyes. The meticulously planned anniversary day, the charming facade he had worn, it was all a charade. Every smile, every kiss, every declaration of love had been a performance. Tears welled up, blurring her vision. Her hands shook so violently she almost dropped the phone. The sound of laughter from a nearby table felt alien and mocking. She was in a public place, surrounded by happy couples, and her heart was breaking into a million pieces. How could he? How dare he? The pain was physical, a sharp, tearing sensation in her chest. The perfect world she had inhabited moments ago was gone, replaced by a desolate landscape of lies and betrayal. She looked at the empty chair opposite her. The chair Ethan had occupied just minutes ago, and it felt like a stranger had been sitting there all along. She placed the phone back on the table, her movements robotic. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, trying to compose herself. She needed to breathe. She needed to think. But her mind was a whirlwind of shock, pain, and a nascent, icy anger that was beginning to solidify in the core of her being. Ethan returned to the table, a relaxed smile on his face. "Everything okay, Liv?" he asked, oblivious to the seismic shift that had just occurred. Olivia looked at him, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. The man she had loved for 10 years was a ghost, replaced by this smiling imposter. "No, Ethan," she said, her voice surprisingly steady, though tinged with ice. "Nothing is okay." She pushed his phone across the table towards him. "Care to explain this?" Facing the pain. A journey of self-discovery. Ethan picked up his phone, his smile faltering. As he saw the screen, his face paled, his eyes widening in a mixture of shock and fear. The color drained from his cheeks, leaving behind a waxy, guilty pallor. "Liv, I can explain," he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. The dam of Olivia's composure burst. "Explain what, Ethan?" she demanded, her voice rising, attracting the attention of nearby diners. "Explain how you've been lying to me for months. Explain who Chloe is. Explain why you're going to San Francisco with her tomorrow instead of the day after." He looked around nervously, trying to lower his voice. "Let's not do this here, Liv. Can we talk about this at home?" "No," she said, shaking her head, tears streaming down her face now, hot and angry. "We are doing this here, on our 10th anniversary, the one you pretended to care about while planning your little getaway with your girlfriend." "She's not my girlfriend," he insisted, though the denial rang hollow. "She's just a colleague. Things got complicated." "Complicated?" Olivia laughed, a harsh, broken sound. "Sending messages saying missing you, babe, and planning secret trips is complicated? Don't insult my intelligence, Ethan." He launched into a torrent of excuses. It was a mistake. It only happened recently. Work stress led him to make poor decisions. Chloe meant nothing. Olivia was the one he truly loved. He begged for forgiveness, promising it would never happen again. But his words were like oil on a fire. His casual dismissal of Chloe as just a colleague, after seeing the intimate messages, his feeble excuses. It was a further insult to her pain. "You don't love me, Ethan," she said, her voice laced with bitter certainty. You don't respect me. If you did, you wouldn't have done this. You wouldn't have spent 10 years building a life with me, while secretly building one with someone else. She stood up abruptly, knocking her chair back slightly. The sound echoed in the sudden hush that had fallen over their corner of the restaurant. All eyes were on them. She didn't care. Keep the phone, Ethan, she said, her voice trembling with rage and hurt. Keep your lies. Keep your mistress. We're done. She turned and walked away, leaving him sitting alone at the table, surrounded by the remnants of their shattered anniversary celebration. She didn't look back. She hailed a taxi outside, the cool night air a shock against her tear-streaked face. As the taxi pulled away, she saw Ethan emerge from the restaurant, looking lost and alone on the sidewalk. The sight gave her a fleeting moment of grim satisfaction before the raw pain consumed her again. Back at the townhouse, the place that had felt like a sanctuary just hours ago now felt cold and alien. Every corner held a memory, a painful reminder of the life she thought they had. She walked through the rooms, touching objects, each one a testament to a lie. The emotional breakdown came in waves. First, the gut-wrenching sobs, deep and uncontrollable, kneeling on the living room floor, the sound muffled by her hands. Then, the burning anger, a fierce, consuming fire that made her want to smash everything around her. Betrayal, confusion, heartbreak. They all swirled together in a toxic cocktail of pain. She felt foolish, naive. How could she have been so blind? Were there other signs she had missed? Had their entire relationship been a lie? After hours of weeping and raging, exhaustion set in. She curled up on the sofa, clutching a throw pillow, the one they used to share. It smelled faintly of him, and the scent was a fresh stab of pain. Around 3 a.m., she finally reached for her phone. She couldn't go through this alone. She needed her support system. She scrolled through her contacts and found Sarah's name. Sarah, her best friend since college. Grounded, practical, and fiercely loyal, Sarah answered on the second ring, her voice groggy. Liv? What's wrong? It's the middle of the night. Sarah, Olivia choked out, the tears starting again. It's Ethan. He cheated on me. She poured out the whole story, the anniversary celebration, the phone call, the discovery, the confrontation at the restaurant. Sarah listened patiently, interjecting with gasps of shock and quiet expressions of sympathy. Oh, Liv, I'm so sorry, Sarah said, her voice full of genuine concern. That bastard, how could he do this to you? I don't know, Sarah, Olivia whispered, feeling utterly broken. I don't know what to do. You don't have to do anything right now except hurt, Sarah said gently. I'm coming over. Give me 20 minutes. Sarah arrived shortly after, bringing with her a large container of ice cream, a box of tissues, and a fierce look of protectiveness. She didn't try to minimize Olivia's pain or offer platitudes. She just sat with her, held her hand, and let her cry. As the sun began to rise, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, Olivia felt a sliver of strength returning, fueled by Sarah's unwavering support. They talked for hours, dissecting the relationship, trying to make sense of the senseless. Sarah helped Olivia see the truth. Ethan's actions were not a reflection of her worth. He was the one who had failed, who had chosen deceit. Olivia was the one who had been wronged. He doesn't get away with this, Liv, Sarah said, her eyes hard. He doesn't get to just walk away after destroying 10 years of your life. Flicker of something other than pain ignited in Olivia's chest. Anger, yes, but also something colder, more focused, a desire for justice. Rebuilding. The road to healing. The days and weeks that followed were a blur of pain, anger, and practicalities. Olivia stayed with Sarah for a few nights, unable to face being alone in the townhouse that held so many painful memories. She consulted with a lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Ms. Rodriguez, who specialized in divorce cases involving infidelity. Ms. Rodriguez advised Olivia on the legal aspects. Since they were married, their assets were considered marital property and would be divided. The infidelity, while morally reprehensible, didn't automatically guarantee Olivia a larger share, but it could impact spousal support and potentially the division of assets if Ethan's actions had depleted marital funds, like expensive gifts or trips for Chloe. Ms. Rodriguez also emphasized the importance of gathering evidence. Olivia thought of Ethan's phone, the one she had pushed back to him. She regretted that now. But there was still his social media, his email, his computer. She knew his passwords for many things. The desire for justice, for leveling the playing field, grew into a quiet, burning resolve. Ethan had stripped her of her dignity, her trust, her future as she saw it. He had treated her like a fool. He needed to face consequences. Not just legal ones, but consequences that hit him where it hurt the most. His reputation, his career, and his carefully constructed public image. This wasn't about winning him back. It wasn't about petty retaliation. It was about reclaiming her power, about showing him that her pain was not something to be dismissed or ignored. It was about ensuring he understood the magnitude of his betrayal. She started small, gathering information. She went back to the townhouse, her heart heavy, but her mind focused. She found a separate, burner phone Ethan had been using, the one he'd taken calls on during their anniversary day. It contained more damning messages, confirming the depth and duration of his affair with Chloe. She carefully documented everything, taking screenshots, creating a digital archive of his deceit. She researched Chloe. A quick search revealed her social media profiles. She was young, attractive, and worked at the same tech firm as Ethan, in a different department. Olivia saw photos of Chloe at company events, sometimes in the background of shots that included Ethan. She felt a fresh wave of nausea, but she pushed it down. Emotion was a distraction. She needed to be strategic. Olivia started planning. Her revenge wouldn't be loud or messy. It would be calculated, precise, and aimed at dismantling the pillars of Ethan's life. First, his career. Ethan was ambitious, proud of his success at the tech firm. Olivia knew he was up for a major promotion, one that would significantly increase his salary and standing. She also knew the company had a strict code of conduct, especially regarding relationships between employees and anything that could be seen as a conflict of interest or harmful to the company's image. An affair with a junior colleague, especially one conducted using company resources, his work email possibly, could be a serious issue. Working with Sarah, who had a knack for discreet online research, Olivia compiled a dossier. The screenshots of messages, evidence of their secret trips, cross-referenced with Ethan's work travel schedule, and any other digital breadcrumbs they could find. They found flight bookings under different names but linked to Ethan's credit card, hotel reservations, even restaurant receipts from cities he was supposedly in alone on business. Olivia anonymously sent this dossier to a contact at Ethan's company she knew was discreet and had a strong sense of professional ethics. Someone who would see the ethical implications of Ethan's behavior, not just the personal drama. She attached a brief, neutral cover letter stating that she believed this information was relevant to the company's code of conduct. The impact was swift and devastating. Within days, word filtered back to Olivia through a mutual acquaintance that there was an internal investigation into Ethan's conduct. The promotion was put on hold. He was questioned extensively. The carefully constructed image of the dedicated, hard-working employee crumbled. Next, his reputation. Ethan cultivated an image of a devoted husband and a pillar of the community. He was active in local charities and enjoyed being seen as successful and respected. Olivia decided to target this. She couldn't just blast his affair all over social media. That would be messy and unprofessional. but she could subtly chip away at his carefully curated image. She created an anonymous social media account, sharing carefully worded posts about the devastating impact of infidelity and betrayal, using vague but relatable language that resonated with people who had experienced similar pain. She didn't name Ethan, but she shared general details about a long-term relationship, a cheating partner, and the emotional toll. The posts gained traction, attracting comments and messages of support from strangers who shared their own stories. It wasn't direct revenge, but it created a public narrative around infidelity and its consequences, a narrative that, in the small, interconnected world of their town, would inevitably circle back to Ethan as people started to connect the dots. She also made strategic, seemingly casual comments to mutual acquaintances, expressing her sadness about the end of her marriage and Ethan's difficulties at work, hinting vaguely at personal issues that had contributed to the situation. She never explicitly mentioned the affair, but her carefully chosen words sowed seeds of doubt and speculation. Finally, his finances. The legal process of divorce was underway, and Ms. Rodriguez was fighting for a fair settlement. But Olivia wanted to hit him financially in a way that the divorce court might not fully cover. She knew about a significant investment Ethan had, made recently, one he was very proud of, believing it would yield substantial returns. It was in a small, relatively unknown startup. Using the information she'd gleaned from his burner phone and computer, Olivia uncovered some concerning details about the startup's financials and its leadership. Details that were not public knowledge, and suggested the investment was far riskier than Ethan believed. She anonymously shared this information with a financial journalist who specialized in exposing shaky investments. The journalist, after conducting their own research, based on Olivia's tip, published an article that raised serious questions about the startup's viability, causing its stock price to plummet and severely impacting Ethan's investment. As Olivia executed her plan piece by piece, she felt a profound shift within herself. The raw pain and helplessness began to recede, replaced by a sense of agency and control. Planning and executing the revenge required focus, cunning, and a detached resolve she hadn't known she possessed. She was no longer the victim. She was a force to be reckoned with. This newfound power wasn't about being vindictive. It was about reclaiming her voice and her dignity. The impact of her calculated revenge was undeniable. Ethan was facing professional repercussions. His promotion prospects were dim, and his standing at work was damaged. His reputation in their social circle was tarnished by the whispers and speculation, and his significant investment had turned into a significant loss. The playing field felt, for the first time since that night in the restaurant level, justice, in a complex, multifaceted way, was being served. He reached out a few times, initially with attempts to reconcile, then with angry accusations about her actions. Olivia ignored the reconciliation attempts and calmly countered the accusations through her lawyer, reminding him that his own actions had led to these consequences. He had created this mess, and now he was living in it. The revenge, while satisfying, wasn't the end of Olivia's journey. It was a necessary step, a way to process the anger and reclaim her power, but it didn't heal the wound of betrayal. Healing was a separate process, one that required patience and self-compassion. With the legal proceedings moving forward and Ethan dealing with the fallout of his choices, Olivia focused on rebuilding her life. She moved out of the townhouse and into a smaller, sunnier apartment that felt entirely her own. She threw herself into her freelance graphic design work, taking on challenging projects that pushed her creatively and professionally. She reconnected with old friends she had drifted away from during her marriage. She joined a book club, started taking pottery classes, and volunteered at a local animal shelter. She discovered new passions and rediscovered old ones she had set aside. She spent more time in nature, hiking in the nearby state park, finding solace and perspective in the quiet strength of the trees and the vastness of the sky. Reclaiming her self-worth was perhaps the most important part of her healing. While the betrayal had made her question everything about herself, was she not good enough? Was she naive? Was she lovable? Through therapy, through the unwavering support of Sarah and her family, and through the process of rebuilding her life from the ground up, she began to silence those doubts. She learned that her worth was not defined by Ethan's actions or the failure of her marriage. She was strong, resilient, capable, and worthy of love and happiness. She allowed herself to grieve the loss of the life she thought she had, the dreams she had shared with Ethan. It was a painful process, but a necessary one. She acknowledged the pain, processed it, and slowly, gradually, began to let go. There were moments of sadness, moments when the anger resurfaced, but they became less frequent, less intense. The raw wound began to scar over, leaving behind a tough, resilient tissue. One evening, months after the divorce was finalized and Ethan's life had irrevocably changed, Olivia sat on her balcony, watching the sunset. She thought about the journey she had been on. From the excitement of her anniversary morning to the shattering revelation, the depths of her pain, the calculated pursuit of justice, and now, this quiet sense of peace. She had learned a valuable, albeit painful, lesson about trust and deception. But she had also learned about her own strength, her resilience, and her capacity to overcome adversity. The betrayal had not broken her. It had, in a strange and difficult way, forged her into a stronger, more authentic version of herself. She was not defined by the betrayal. She was defined by how she had risen from the ashes, how she had fought for herself, and how she was building a new future filled with hope, purpose, and the quiet certainty that she was capable of navigating whatever life threw her way. Love and trust in the aftermath. It was a long road. She wasn't ready for a new romantic relationship yet, but she knew that when she was, she would approach it with open eyes and a stronger sense of self. She understood now that trust was earned, not given freely, and that true love was built on a foundation of honesty and respect. The scars remained, a reminder of the storm she had weathered, but they were not debilitating. They were a testament to her survival, her resilience, and her journey from heartbroken victim to empowered survivor. The sunset painted the sky in vibrant colors, a promise of a new day, a new beginning. Olivia smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile. The future was unwritten, but for the first time in a long time, she was excited to see what it held. She was ready to write her own story. Loved this journey of resilience and revenge? If you were gripped by Olivia's story and her fight for justice, show your support. Give this video a like and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our next dramatic tale. Your engagement helps us bring more compelling stories like this one to life.